So, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, wassalatu wassalamu ala ashraf al-anbiya'i wal-mursaleen, Sayyidina wa Nabiyyina wa Maulana Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. So, a little bit for the framework for today's session. I always do everything in multiples of five, or in five. That's the name of the company and so on, and we'll talk about why, but five before college. So, our 5 points for today: a little bit of background about me for the people who are new to the community. I'm five before college, this company that I've started. An overview of the college application process. Some people, mashallah, are probably very sophisticated and know these things in and out, but there are a lot of other people who maybe are recent immigrants or they're professionals who did their schooling overseas, and they it's sort of a black box, a black hole. They've heard a lot about college admissions, but they don't know. So I want to go over some of the basics of it. I want to give you a sense of what happens behind the scenes, right? We're talking about submitting the applications, but how do these colleges go, what happens after it's sent. And then the majority of the time is going to be talking about the college essay itself and introducing our sort of unique 5 before college essay model, where we go through these things. And then at the end, inshallah, we're going to introduce our latest class, the one which is just getting introduced today, which is the College Essay Bootcamp. So we'll do that towards the end. So I hope you guys are able to stay with us all the way through. So, Bismillah. So what is the goal? The goal of today is, sort of the big structure: use the college essay to become a magnetic Muslim. Right? Why chase after colleges when you can have them come chasing after you? Some of you, if you're on my email list, you probably saw an email that I sent on Monday telling the story of a Muslim student who wrote an essay that was so memorable and so remarkable that the Yale admissions office actually called him on the phone, and they said, we have a special guest who's visiting, and the president of Mexico was visiting Yale, and they used the president of Mexico to try to recruit this brother, his name is Nail, to come to Yale. It didn't work. Alhamdulillah, he ended up going to my school, Harvard. But it's a remarkable story, and that's really what can happen to you if you really write an amazing essay. His essay, inshallah, there is a link to it later in this slide deck, and you'll be able to a chance to read it. But it was about memorizing the Quran at a madrasa in South Africa while simultaneously reading Harry Potter, the Harry Potter series, and sort of navigating his Muslim and Western identity in just an incredibly beautiful way, mashallah. And Hafs Nail has actually gone on to get 5 degrees from Harvard, the only person I know who has 5 Harvard degrees. And he's a really remarkable person and one of my very, very close friends. But so the idea here is, even if you are a senior, right, and you're or you're a rising senior, that this college essay and application overall and the essay in particular is the most important thing. It's the biggest arrow you still have in your quiver to really make a big difference. So a little bit of background about me. I call myself a Mayflower Muslim because both on my mother's side and my father's side, my ancestry stretches back to the Mayflower, the original sort of pilgrims who arrived here in New England. I became Muslim at the age of 15 in 1994. I was at boarding school outside of Boston, and many of you may have heard me tell that story before. But alhamdulillah, that was obviously the most important thing that happened to me. I went on from school, and after an amazing year off where I traveled around the world, I began at Harvard in 1997, graduated in 2001 with a degree in NELC, Near Eastern Languages and Civilizations. After a brief career in Islamic finance, I transitioned towards education, and I've been in the field of education for more than 20 years. I've been a high school English teacher, I've been a school administrator, I've been a guidance counselor, and for the last 11 years, I've been worn many hats, but among them been the guidance counselor and the college placement person at New England's first full-time Islamic school, K through 12 school. And alhamdulillah, during that time, despite we're a very small school. We have graduating classes of anywhere between 10 to 20 students. We have a shoestring budget, very limited resources. Yet despite that, year after year, we were sending kids off to many of the best colleges in the country. The very first student I ever had to place, he got in early to Harvard. And then we continued to send people off to MIT and Brown and Dartmouth and, you know, all these kinds of places. So over time, alhamdulillah, I developed a real expertise in helping Muslims navigate this college process. Writing has always sort of been my thing, my superpower. I have a popular newsletter, and I founded this company, 5 Before College, with the goal of helping Muslim teenagers get into their dream colleges and launching them towards success in this world and the next. I think a lot of families or students are being told like it's either deen or dunya. I see this as a false dichotomy, right? That I think we as, for the most part, Western Muslims, so the people in this audience, we have obviously our first and foremost priority needs to be success in the akhirah and having the akhirah orientation and pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if we don't have that component, then nothing else matters. But at the same time, we should be seeking the highest levels of success in the dunya as well. And college is often the first step in that path. And that's why I'm incredibly passionate about helping teenagers have a similarly transformative experience during their teenage years as I did when I became Muslim at that age. So when I was thinking of the name for 5 Before, for the company, I was trying to think of what was our secret sauce. What was the special ingredient that we had at my school at Al Noor Academy, where we were consistently getting such great results? And I think it came down to two things. One was that by the time I was placing the students as seniors, I had taught them for 5 full years. I used to teach 6th grade English, and then I would teach 9th and 10th grade English, and then I was their guidance counselor, dual enrollment coordinator in 11th and 12th grade. So literally 5 full years they were in my classroom before I was placing them in school. And so the depth with which I knew my students was incredible. And so I wanted to, in order to take that model and bring it to the ummah as a whole, it's difficult because most college counselors, they come in at the 11th hour when people are already seniors, as some of you may be, and I don't want to scare you off. I can still help you, inshallah, even if you're brand new to the audience. But my goal, long-term goal, is to start working with people in those 5 years leading up to college, right? Because really that's how you get the highest quality application and so on, is by making strategic decisions in those early years of high school, so that this process at the end of actually applying to college, you're going to have lots of things to do. But inshallah, you guys will be fine. The second key, the second secret sauce, was that we were an Islamic school. And alhamdulillah, our principal is a scholar of Islam. And the thing I love most about the school is that the students graduated with an akhirah orientation and a Muslim worldview firmly in place that they stick to for life. And in that sense, that's by far the most important thing that I could ask for. And so, I tried to think about this, and one of my favorite hadiths is the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. Take advantage, اغتنموا خمسا قبل خمس, take advantage of 5 before 5. And so the Prophet ﷺ gave us really a complete guidance for how to be productive in this world. What should we be doing? What should we be focusing on, right? And I've sort of taken that hadith. Take benefit of 5 before 5, your youth before your old age, your health before your sickness, your wealth before your poverty, your free time before your busyness, and your life before your death. And I realized, I had this epiphany moment where I was like, subhanAllah, that's actually what high schoolers need to be doing in those 5 years leading up to college. If they do that, then they will have this holistic admissions profile that top colleges are actually looking for. So in this beautiful hadith and this beautiful prophetic guidance, we have the roadmap that we actually need in order to achieve our college dreams. So I don't want to spend too long on this. I know some of you may have seen this before, and we have a lot of other things to do, but essentially youth before old age, that's where we have to focus on our academics. First and foremost, the most important criteria that colleges use, the most important single document is your transcript. The most important number is your GPA, as I imagine you know. I think many Muslim families focus way too heavily or exclusively on just the academic side and just the grades, because there's much more to it than that. But at the same time, without the grades, then you don't have the same level of opportunities. And the single key to improving academically is to become a reader and to read a lot. That's the quality which I've seen has held true for all of my students and all of my years. Health before sickness. We also need to take care of our body and our mind. Right, that it's and when I say mind, not just intellectually, but the mental health side of things. Right, so we need to take advantage. We need to be getting exercise. We need to be playing sports. We need to, mind, body, soul. If you leave the body out, then you're not getting sufficient sleep. You're not going to live up to your potential. Your wealth before poverty. Right, this is a huge one. That high school is a time to start exploring your future careers. I run another program called Find Your Qibla, which is all about this, which is about helping students, especially in the first half of high school, discover who they are and what they might want to do, how they might want to spend their time, what impact they want to make on the world, and how they're going to earn wealth. There's nothing haram about earning money. And then there's also the whole question of how to pay for college. So how can we unlock scholarships and help people with that whole process of actually paying for college. Free time before busyness. This is where our extracurriculars, what we're doing outside of school, comes in. And obviously our suhba, our friendships, is the most important feature of that. We are the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with, right? And so we really need to be careful with who those people are. Are they pushing us up towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Are they dragging us down? And so on. And finally, life before death, right? This is where our character, our akhlaq, and our deen come into play, right? And this is the most important thing. So alhamdulillah, this formula really does work. We have sent students off to all of these fantastic schools, and there are many more that are not on this list. And let me see, I think I need to actually share with sound to get to the next video. So let me do that. Hopefully this works. You guys just put some hearts in the chat if you can hear this. Yes? No? Okay, I see some hearts. Oops, sorry. Okay, so hopefully that worked. I see the chat exploded. Oh, you can't hear. Ah, you can't hear. Oh no. I don't know what to do about that because I shared it saying okay. Well, I'm not sure why that happened. Usually when I click that share sound thing, it works, which I have done. But in any case, I'm sorry you couldn't hear. But that was a group of students. I guess if you can't hear, you can at least see. So these are just some of some of my former students, what they said. Brother Hamza not only helped me reach the Ivy League, but also helped me figure out who I was. From Yasin. Amina said, Hamza's help was a godsend. He brought a wealth of knowledge to the table, knowledge that I, as a first-generation American Muslim, was not privy to. The way he speaks makes me want to open a book and absorb new ideas. Love that one. Brother Hamza is the best teacher I've ever had. My family is very happy and proud of me because of him. And Brother Hamza changed my life. He opened my eyes to the reality that life is more than just getting into a good college. So all wonderful things from some amazing students. All right, so let's get into this, the overview of the college application. So there are things that the school gives to colleges, and then there are things that the students are responsible for. So obviously, usually when you think about it, you're probably only focusing on the things you're responsible for. But in fact, it's the things the school has to give that are also very important. And so on. So what the school does is we have to give, as your guidance counselor, as your teachers, we have to give ratings of our students where we rate you in various different things. Some schools report class rank. A small school like mine does not. We do provide the GPA in your transcript. Um, uh, Another really important document that we do is the school profile. So the school profile tells colleges what your school is about. Schools are dramatically different. This is one of the things that I've really realized, and now that I work with a national brand and talk to Muslims from all over the country, schools are not created equal. Some schools have APs, some schools are IB, some schools don't have anything even like that. Some schools have a dual enrollment program. There are a lot of homeschool students who are applying to college. So you're not getting compared to other applicants like from around the country. You're getting compared just apples to apples of other people who go to your type of school. There's grade inflation. There's so many different things at that. Then there are the rec letters, and I bolded the ones that you still have some control over, right? That aren't like رفعت الأقلام. That like there's still some chance for you to have an impact. So the rec letters are written typically by your 11th or 12th grade teachers, at least one teacher, often two, depending on the college's requirements. And those speak to your character. And then one of the most important recommendation letters is actually coming from your counselor, right? And that's, I think, one of the ways that I help my students more than anything was writing those counselor recommendation letters. So one big piece of advice for the seniors is if you don't know your college guidance counselor well, definitely try to get to know them. The squeaky wheel gets the grease. Like you want to be someone that they know about so that they really go to bat for you when they're writing your letter. But what can you control? You can't really control your demographics, where you live, your family's financial situation, your gender, your ethnicity, or anything like that. You can control to some extent your activities, although most of them, have already happened. Academic awards, non-academic awards, work experience, summer activities, those are mostly things in the past at this point. Maybe you still have a little time this summer to add a few extracurriculars, but most of them are in the rear view if you are a current senior. But you do have opportunity to work on your activities list, the way you talk about your activities, and then you have your main essay, the personal statement, and then you have your supplemental essays. So those, I want to talk a little bit more about that. So the activities section is so the three main parts of the common application and that you can still work on are the activity section, the main personal statement, that quote unquote college essay, and then the supplemental essays, right? So the activity section is where you have a space for up to 10 different activities, and these are the choices that they actually give you on the common app. And most students who are applying to top schools are going to fill out if not all of those 10 spots. You certainly don't have to, but ideally you will have had a wide variety of different extracurricular things. But there is an art to writing the activities section, and that's one of the things that we help with students with in the boot camp is getting their activities section really dialed in. There's an art to which activities you list first, how you talk about them, how you quantify them, how you use actual numbers. There's a lot of detail that goes into it. The next thing is the actual college essay, right? So the college essay, there is a prompt for the college essays, and this is actually last year's prompt. I believe, as far as I know, it has not changed for this year. Common App goes live on August 1st, but these are the questions. Some students have a background, identity, interest, or talent that is so meaningful they believe their application would be incomplete without it. If this sounds like you, please share your story. Just open opportunity for you to share your story. What you'll notice about these is they're very broad. right? The lessons we take from obstacles we encounter can be fundamental to later successes. Recount a time when you faced a challenge, setback, or failure. How did it affect you, and what did you learn from the experience? Okay, so reflecting on failure and challenges and obstacles that we've gone through. Reflect on a time when you questioned or challenged a belief or idea. What prompted your thinking? What was the outcome? Okay, so they're looking at our intellectual thoughts and things that have gone on. Reflect on something that someone has done for you that has made you happy or thankful in a surprising way. How has this gratitude affected or motivated you? Okay, I don't see as many people choosing this one, but gratitude, لَإِن شَكَرْتُمْ لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ. Having gratitude is so important. Discuss an accomplishment, event, or realization that sparked a period of personal growth and a new understanding of yourself or others. Okay, this is a good one, but there's a danger that you'll start talking too much about what you did and not enough about why you did it, as we'll talk about. Describe a topic, idea, or concept that you find so engaging that it makes you lose all track of time. Why does it captivate you? What or who do you turn to when you want to learn more? Okay, so again, colleges are looking for intellectually curious students. This is a great one for that. And then look at this number 7, which is really why I say don't sweat the prompts. You can literally write about anything. Share an essay on any topic of your choice. It can be one you've already written, one that responds to a different prompt, or one of your own design. So literally anything can be a college essay. You have 650 words to write an essay. That's why it's stressful, right? Because students feel like I only have 650 words to sum up like all of me, and there's so much, and so they really struggle. And in fact, even really good writers, even students that I've taught them English for years, and mashallah, they're very talented writers, they struggle a lot with this personal statement, often because they're trying to just write the great American essay, and they shoot for the stars, but they end up writing something that sounds very contrived and very flat, and I'm going to try to teach you ways to avoid doing that. The second component of the college essay process are the supplements, right? That you need to for some schools, not every school has supplements. Some schools you only need to do the activity section, all the demographic stuff, the main essay, and then you're done. And a lot of you will probably be applying to one of your top schools early. We're going to have a little section on early decision, early action coming up, right? And then you might be applying to a lot of quote unquote safety schools, or schools that you're pretty sure you're going to get into. Most safety schools with relatively high acceptance rates don't have any supplements, right? That's not really part of their process. They're trying to get as many applications as possible. So during this early process, what we're really focused on with our boot camp and stuff is getting your application to your top choice school, the one, your dream school, done during this early process. But you can also send your applications off to all of your safety schools as well, and so on. But schools have supplements. Some of the supplements are fairly straightforward. Be yourself, Oscar Wilde advice. Everyone else is taken. Introduce yourself. Okay, that's sort of similar to one of the Common App essay prompts. If you could teach a class on any one thing, whether academic or otherwise, what would it be? That's one of Brown's, classic one. UPenn has one they've used for years. Write a short thank you note to someone who you have not yet thanked and would like to acknowledge, and then we encourage you to share this note with that person and reflect on the experience. Okay, I've seen some really great essays. One of my students last year, who Hamza is now at UPenn, she was on the swim team, and she was actually bullied because of how she dressed modestly, right? Because she was a Muslimah, and so some of the kids on the swim team used to bully her. So after we talked, we decided that she would write a thank you letter to the bullies, because that hardship that she went through of having to stand up for her faith actually turned her into the person who she was. And she ended up starting this NGO and tutoring all these Kashmiri children and working with refugees in her backyard, and just really fully embracing her Islamic identity. And so she thanked the bullies for that. It was a brilliant essay, and mashallah. Then some schools have really wacky prompts. University of Vermont, which Ben & Jerry's ice cream flavor, real or imagined, best describes you? Okay, 500 words. And then University of Chicago is the king or queen or whatever of the crazy prompt. They have a whole list of these every year. There's a great fanfare when they come out. One of them was, so where is Waldo, really? And there's no word limit for these. Another one of their essays is find X. That's the whole prompt. And they're really trying to get you to be very creative. These are tricky. Okay, these are you can't recycle essays because you're writing it just for them, and that's why they're doing that. They're trying to put some friction in applying to their school and see, do you really care about them? Are you really going to go all out on the supplement and so on? So that's a little bit of background about how that works. Next, the second topic was what happens behind the scenes. Right, this is a little AI generated image of a college admissions office. Probably doesn't quite look exactly like that, but it's important to know how the sausage is made, right? And mainly what we're talking about here is what I call highly rejective schools. In other words, schools that have relatively low admissions rates. The reality is, and this is an important statistic, that 97% of students go to colleges with acceptance rates of 50% or higher. Okay? 97% of students go to colleges with acceptance rates of 50% or higher. So those are colleges that are considered selective or not very, sorry, that are not considered selective, right? They admit more than 1 out of every 2 kids, and some of them much higher rates than that. So only 3% of students are going to these schools with these minuscule admissions rates that we're going to talk about on the next slides and so on. So these top 20 schools, the Ivy League schools and the Stanfords and the MITs and the University of Chicago's and the Johns Hopkins and Williams and Amherst and all those kinds of schools, the brand name schools. That's where it is a real dog-eat-dog world, and many people want to be in that 3% and so on. And it is a specialty of mine, helping people get there. But the other thing I want to reassure you, because as I've talked to so many families, that the goal of some families is not to get into an Ivy League school. It's not their goal. It might not be a realistic goal. And really they want to go to the school that's closest to the home, that gives them the best financial package, where they can, and every single situation is different, and I don't want to just help the people who are aiming for the top. I absolutely want to help those, but I want to help all students, because every student has the potential to do great things, and getting a college degree is a great step on that path and so on. But in any case, that's a little bit of an aside about these schools. So the process is much simpler at other schools. At other schools, really, it is your transcript, your grades, your essay needs to be solid, but a good essay can unlock something called merit aid, merit money, scholarship money. So that it does make sense, even if you're going to a school that you're most likely going to get into, to still write a fantastic essay and try to have your application really be sparkling. And so one little thing in elite admissions at those top 20 schools, top 30 schools, only one person has to say no for you to be kept out, but a whole lot of people have to say yes for you to get in. Okay, and the first person who has to do that is the admissions officer who reads your file. Oh, sorry, I meant to put, let me go back to, I meant to put this slide next. So who reads these things anyway? So the admissions officer who reads your file, they tend to be recent alumni of those colleges, right? So they tend to be fairly young. They do tend to be fairly liberal. In general, most of these schools are, fairly liberal places. So they often have, at the top schools, have a crushing load of applications to sift through. So they might need to be reading 50 applications in a day. They spend an average of only 5 to 7 minutes per application, right? Those, that's an average. So sometimes they do spend more, but they do not have a lot of time for each individual application. And the top admissions officers, the ones making the profiles, don't really read too many of the files. They're not at the front lines the way these other people are. And admissions officers are pretty much, when they have so many applications and so few spots, they're really looking for reasons to reject your file. unfortunately, right? And they're looking for inconsistencies or problems, and that's where, like, if you don't pass the sort of GPA and academic screening, they're going to quickly look through the rest of your application, make sure you haven't cured cancer or you're not an Olympic level athlete or something else amazing like that, and then they're probably going to put you over into the no thanks pile, right? Whereas if you pass that academic screening and you do have the grades, then they're going to look at everything else, and actually the grades at that point sort of take a back seat to all the other things. So your goal with your essay is to transform that initial reader, right, from a gatekeeper into an advocate. So the gatekeeper is trying to keep the gates to your top choice university closed. You want to turn them, through your words and through the way you present yourself, into an advocate who's going to go into that big meeting and say, hey, I found an amazing kid. We have to admit this kid, right? That's the whole goal of this. That's how you become that magnetic Muslim, that you've impressed them to such an, because, the admissions officers don't have, they can't pull for every single kid who comes through. So you really want to be in front of them and so on. So just a few statistics. Admissions rates are just pretty crazy. So at Northeastern, when things first started, when I first started, like, they had close to a 40%, 30+% acceptance rate. Okay, back in 2022 is at 6.7%. Okay, and the reason for that is that there are a lot of different reasons. There are some demographic reasons and so on. But the number of applications has started to go up, especially post-pandemic. Almost all the schools went test optional, so they no longer were requiring SAT scores, ACT scores. And so the number of applications sort of shot up, and therefore the number of spots went down and the acceptance rates went down. And it's good for the schools. They appear to be more difficult to get into. That helps them shoot up in the U.S. News and World Report rankings and so on. While the testing picture is changing, and maybe I'm not going to talk too much about that in today's talk, but the SAT is sort of coming back. The impact of this is that early decision has become sort of the new regular decision. So at Northeastern in particular, and I know this because it's a very popular school with our students. Last year in a class of 10, actually 4 of our students are going to Northeastern, which I think is pretty remarkable because as you can see, it's pretty low acceptance rates. But all but one of them applied early decision, either early decision 1 or ED2, which is a second form of early decision. So early decision is what that means is that you're applying for a deadline that's usually around November 1st, sometimes November 15th. And it's a binding agreement. What you're saying to that school is, if I get accepted to the school, then I will attend the school, right? So it has it's the single biggest thing you can do to help your chances of getting into a school, but it is a very tricky decision because there's a lot of strategy. If you look at this chart in the top, these are the Ivy League acceptance rates. This is from I guess class of 2026, so a couple of years ago. So you can see the ones in red are the regular decision, right? So at Dartmouth, almost 20% of their, the ones in red are early decision. Almost 20% of the people applying get in. But then during regular decisions, way below 5%. So in other words, if you want to be a competitive applicant, you're almost definitely going to want to apply early if you're ready. And again, this is something why you talk to an expert and so on before you make this decision and so on. But the volume of people applying early has gone way up and so on. The other type of early thing is early action. Early action is you still apply early, and you also hear back from the schools early. So if you apply for the November 1st, you usually get a reply around December 15th. With early action, some of the schools don't tell you till February or something like that, but way earlier than you do for the regular decision deadline. but it's not binding. So you're not agreeing to it. And then some schools, just to confuse the waters even more, have a third thing called restrictive early action. So this is what Harvard and Yale do, which means that it's not binding. You don't have, if you get in early to Harvard, you don't have to go there, right? But you can't apply to any other private universities. So you can't apply, early to Harvard and early to MIT. MIT is an early action school. You can't apply to both of them because that's part of the rules. So sorry to get too deep in the weeds. I was trying to keep this big overview, but I sometimes get excited about these things. So what are you supposed to do? Right. One thing for those of you who have children who are younger, or students who are younger who are here, is start early. Right. That's why I founded 5 Before College. Right. So start thinking about this stuff early. Start getting your profile ready early, and that will make a big difference. Definitely for the seniors, apply, if possible, early action or early decision, right? There are times when that's not the right decision, and we can talk about that. Like if you're really not ready, if your essay is not in good shape, if you still need your senior year to, show that you've corrected a trend, your junior year was way down and your senior year is coming up, there are reasons not to apply early. But in general, for people who are going after competitive admissions and people who want to get this process done with quickly, applying early makes the most sense. And then, of course, there's write the unforgettable essay. I'm just going to look in the chat, make sure I'm not missing anything major. Yeah, please post your questions there. Yep. So yeah, please put the questions in the Q&A and any commentary here. All right. So the question becomes, I'm a senior, what can I still control? So you can still control your recommendation letters, potentially, if you have, especially if you haven't asked them, or even if you have. And how do you control your recommendation letters? What I recommend is something called a brag sheet. And I don't have a slide about this, but a brag sheet is essentially something that your guidance counselor may have given you. Otherwise, it's something that I work with my students on. And it's a way for you to highlight and make the job of your recommender easier by telling them who you are, what you're all about, what you remember from their class in particular. And the more information you feed them, the easier it makes them to write a really memorable recommendation letter. Because a lot of teachers, for better or worse, they're overworked. They don't put that much effort into their recommendation letters. Some teachers have told me straight up that they have like 5 different recommendation letters, and they just do a fine change for the name based on, like they say there's 5 different types of students. Oh, this is the the brilliant slacker. Okay, I have a rec letter for that person. Boom, done. Right. So you want to pick carefully. You want to pick teachers who are going to go to bat for you, and so on. But also you want to make their job as easy as it can be by giving them a good brag sheet. Your activities list, the way you write about your activities makes a big difference, as we sort of already talked before. And then, of course, your college essay and your supplements, right? That's something that is 100% in your control. Some of you may have written a draft of it, sometimes junior year in English class, or with your guidance people, you write a draft. Typically, I found that until you're really in the thick of things and you're really like you've gotten to senior year, it's rare for something that people have written before that to be the actual essay. It's a good process to go through to get ready for it, but there's something about it's hard to recreate that pressure of really preparing the real deal until this summer before senior year. So things to keep in mind as you're talking about it. This is one of my mom's favorite quotes. She was an English teacher. One of the reasons you see millions of books, this is not a virtual background, these are real books behind me, is because my mom gave me an incredible love of learning. She was the head of the English department at Windsor School, which is one of the top private schools in the country, all-girls school in Boston. And she always would tell me this: what is written without effort is in general read without pleasure. Right? So writing is something I care deeply about. I'm an English teacher. I'm a writer. I have a newsletter. I built my entire business on the back of my own emails. I hope you guys you will be on my email list if you're registered for this. I hope you stay there and I can benefit you. But writing is hard. It's the hardest thing that I do every week, but it's the thing which brings me the most joy. But this part of the process is is supposed to be hard, right? But if you put that effort in, then it is read with pleasure, and nothing makes me happier, and nothing makes many of my students happier than writing something that they're genuinely proud of, and that's really what I want to help you get to. So we have tried to at 5E4 College create a model. Right. I always I'm an English teacher, so I need analogies. So I was like, what can I use? Like maybe a three-legged stool. So I was thinking of that. And alhamdulillah, through a lot of thought and whatnot, I came up with this model. That there are really three key components, and this is mainly what we're going to be talking today, that go into a great college essay. There's your topic, right? There's the process that you use, and then there's the structure of the essay itself. So the topic, right? The process and the structure. So the topic, what the goal is to go from a fairly shallow, trite, cliche, common topic to something which is insightful, which genuinely shows something about you. And within the topic, there are then three parts: the sort of cohesion, the cohesiveness of your thing and your branding, the vulnerability that you show, your values, and for us as Muslims, likely your Islam. If Islam is a very important part of your life, then there's a very good chance that you could not write a complete application without talking about your Islam. But obviously that it's there's an art to doing that. The process, you need to really look at great examples of essays. You need to learn what this form actually looks like. There's something called the zero drafts, which I will talk about in quite a bit of detail in a little bit. And then revision, right? There's the drafting and then the revising. And then finally, in terms of structure, there's the craft, the writing itself, like the words we use and the way we use them. There's the intros and the conclusions, the hook and the kicker. And then there's the actual overall structure, and there's two main structures that you can use for college essays, either the narrative structure or a montage structure. So now I'm going to go through each of these in a little bit more depth. I have a video, but apparently you guys can't hear it. I'll play it for like 5 seconds, and you'll probably tell me you can't hear, but I'll try. Can't hear. Okay. So anyway, I will inshallah, when you want get the slides or something, you can watch this. This I can tell his story. So this is Safwan. He was one of the students last year in the college essay bootcamp that we ran last year, and so he reminds me a lot of myself. He's a bit of a procrastinator. He sort of waited till the last second, but once he finally got into gear, he was amazing. And he wrote this amazing essay about sort of doing martial arts, but his family we're so busy like earning a living that he saw all the other kids and their parents were there on the sidelines cheering them along, and sort of like the soccer mom type thing. And his parents were hardworking immigrant family who just didn't have that much time. And he was sharing like very vulnerable things about himself. And then at the end of the essay, he wrote this beautiful line about getting his black belt or something to that effect in martial arts, and his parents were in the stands and they were the ones cheering the loudest. And it was just a beautiful, beautiful essay. And alhamdulillah, he got into a number of schools. I don't want to say exactly where he's going because he was choosing between two at the end, but mashallah, he's an amazing kid. And he actually has a really nice he didn't talk about all that in his video. He talked more about working with me and what it was like. But it was a really good story. Okay, so here's our first topic. So these, alhamdulillah, I think my daughter who helped me with some of these slides, and the graphic organizer here. So Jazak-Allah khair, Sumaya. All right, so one concept here is this whole concept of personal branding. Right? And what does that even mean? Like you want your application to be a real representation of who you are as a whole person. As Oscar Wilde said, no one can compete with you on being you. Right? No one can compete with you on being you. So college essays are not about what you've done, right? They need to be about who you are, right? If you only got one thing out of this thing, because there's going to be a lot of information shared, college essays are not about what you've done, they're about who you are, right? And so one of the winning formulas for the college essay, or just the way you present your personal brand in general, is I want to study X to become Y while working on Z, right? I want to study medicine, right, to become a doctor while working on Alzheimer's treatment. But within that Z, there's your Y, WHY exists, right? Maybe your grandfather or your parent suffered from Alzheimer's, as mine did, right? And you desperately want to be part of the people who can find the cure for that. One of my students this past year, she's the oldest in her family, and she's older than some of her aunts, and there have been 20 childbirths in her family, and she became passionate about women's health and reproductive health and so on, and did all sorts of workshops and other things around sort of taboo subjects that most Muslim don't talk about, trying to educate Muslim girls about feminine health and so on, and it really all comes together. Celebrate your twin peaks. Okay, so Imam Ghazali rahmatullah alayhi, one of our amazing Islamic scholars that we can learn so much from, he was amazing because not only was he a scholar of Islam, he was also a scholar of like Greek and Roman philosophy. He actually understood philosophy better than the philosophers themselves, right? He wrote Tahafut al-Falsafa, like the incoherence of the philosophers. So he went and he mastered multiple subjects. He wasn't just an Islamic scholar. And this is a model that we can all have. So one of the best pieces of advice, people are always saying, are colleges looking for well-rounded people, or are they looking for sort of pointy people? And I can say categorically, it's much better to be pointy. In other words, you don't want to be a jack of all trades, master of none. You really do want to have one or ideally two specialties, two things that you have really gone deep in. And ideally, best case scenario, right? Those two things are seemingly very different from each other, but somehow your life story stitches them together. Right. So, for example, I had a student who her two passions were computer science. Okay, so something on the sort of STEM side of things, and then ancient Latin and Greek. Right, something totally different. And so her college essay was something about like what Julius Caesar could teach us about algorithms. Something totally out of the box, but something which she was able to pull off because she understood these two different things, and it's the sort of essay that's going to jump off the page because they haven't seen that before, and it celebrates these two different parts of our identity. So ideally, I think within the Muslim community, there's a lot of interest in STEM education. It's understandable. There's a lot of great careers that require STEM degrees, but I would say overall, what I notice is there's too much emphasis on STEM. There's this sense that if you study humanities, you're going straight to the poorhouse and this and that. The people who I see do the best in the college process are people who are strong in both, right? And they have a really clear passion, maybe within the STEM field specifically, and then something within some sort of humanities field, some particular time period in history, some particular artist, or something else, maybe a language, or something. When you can have those twin peaks and be like Imam Ghazali, who's mastered multiple things, that goes a huge way towards developing that personal brand. Focus on the why over the what. So sort of similar to what I was saying before, it's not about what you've done, it's about why you've done it, right? They want to know your niyyah, right? Innamal a'malu bin-niyyah, but we never tell people what our niyyah is. What was your intention? Why did you become pointy in that particular area? You tell us about all your accomplishments and you list them off, laundry list of I did this, right? That's not, they don't care about that. They've seen that a million times. What they want to know is, who are you? What makes you you? And how what was your niyyah? What was your intention? What brought you to that passion that you have? What you want to avoid, trying to sound deep and profound. Oh, sorry, I couldn't see the top. Truth with a capital T. Okay, so again, for some reason, the college essay brings out the worst in most writers, right? They start reaching for the stars and they start talking in all these platitudes like, I finally understood why I was why I was meant to be here, and they have these like big sort of pompous type things, and there's just, it's air, there's no substance to it. So you don't want to try to write this deeply profound thing. Okay, you don't want to do that, and you don't want to blow the trumpets of triumph, right? You want to come across as vulnerable but confident. It's a tough balance to come across, but vulnerable, right, where you recognize that you're flawed, and there's a whole slide on vulnerability coming up, right? But also confident that I haven't figured it all out, but I know the way to get there, right? Don't be one of these kids who's just patting themselves on the back and blowing the trumpets of triumph. I am, Allah's gift to humanity, and this and that. That's a mistake people make. On the other hand, you don't want to come across as like, I there's nothing really special about me, I don't know, and coming across like that. You want to find that happy medium of being confident in yourself, but not purporting to be more than what you are. So what should you do instead? So this comes from another college counselor named Sarah Harbison. She said, often it is in the smallest moment, held under a microscope and explained through a lens of self-reflection, that offers insight into who a student is. Okay, so these small little moments, right? The most seemingly insignificant things, like people have written things about their long driveway, right? Like, who writes a college essay about their long driveway? But it can be an amazing essay, something about their imaginary friend when they were younger, right? There are so many great college essays, and I'll try to uh, pepper little examples throughout, but there are so many great topics that I guarantee are sitting inside of you, and you just sort of need a little bit of help to come up with them. And then you use the microscope to zoom out and show your qualities and show who you are, and so on. All right. I've been talking a lot. I want you guys to do a little bit of work, since this is a time here. And there is a prize component to this. So this is one of the activities that we do in the College Essay Bootcamp. And I will show you some of the ones from last year that my students actually did. But this is called the 7-word memoir. Right. So as I was saying before, the college admissions officer has about 5 minutes with your file, and you want to be able to tell them a story that is sort of your unique story. And you really want to get it down to a soundbite. You want to get it down to ideally like a 7-word, like single sentence. If you can figure out how to frame yourself, right, in these 7 words, it goes so far towards helping you write a cohesive application. Okay, so my challenge for you now is I'm going to give you maybe 3 minutes. I'm not going to give you a lot of time, but to think about what your 7-word memoir might be. So we had bridging East and West in one heart, grew up in libraries, now I build them, survived illness, now I heal others daily, grandma's stories of war became my peace, grew crops on family farm, now bioengineer fields. In dancing atoms, I find their hidden rhythm. As earth weeps, I seek healing solutions. 5 daily prayers and dreams every night. Facing hardships, my faith has never dimmed. With a raised voice, I empower many. Okay, so this is a challenge, and this is not just for the students on the call. Parents can do it too. And we're going to figure out some way of doing some sort of voting. And whoever we decide it has the most impressive, most amazing 7-word activity will get a gift card for them. So I'm going to set a timer for 3 minutes. So what I like to do in the class is make sure you're sending your thing to everyone. Don't send them quite yet. Type it. And then in 3 minutes, I'm going to say, okay, send it. It's called a tweet storm, and it all comes at one time. And that way we're not influenced by what other people are writing and so on. Okay, so I will give you, I said 3 minutes before, so now I'm going to go down to like 2.5 minutes. If anyone needs to take a bio break, use the bathroom, drink water, this is a good time to do it as well. Okay, so timer, 2.5 minutes.
2.5 minutes. Counting down.
So again, you're writing your 7-word memoir in the Zoom chat, but not hitting return until I say so in about a minute and a half. Okay, so you don't need to send it quite yet. We're getting there. We have about 30 seconds. You know what I think I'm going to do with this? When I send the recording tomorrow, I'm going to have we're going to create a poll, and I'm going to put your 7-word memoirs there, and I'll let you guys do the voting yourself to make it fair. And we'll see what happens organically that way to see who gets this this prize, because I have a feeling there's going to be some good ones. Okay, so 10 more seconds. And okay, 3. Again, we're doing this in the chat, not the Q&A. 3, 2, 1. Tweet storm. Wow. I've never done this with so many people. We definitely need to do a poll. Let's see. I just want to read a few of them. I'm not going to be able to read all of them. Grinding in mud, aspirations for the sky. Within darkness, there is a bright light. To be powerful, you have to believe. Become a leader, but first lead myself. Ooh, beautiful. Separated by closed borders, chess connected us. MashaAllah, I know that student. Always been a tech geek, always will. Awesome. You know yourself. Born and grew up tinkering with technology. In misery, I found my hidden call. These are awesome, mashallah. Serving humanity through servitude toward my Lord. Do you get a sense of how I don't know most of these people. Mashallah, you guys are just names on a screen to me, but I'm getting to know you through 7 words. That's the power of language, subhanAllah. From darkness to light, now I teach. Life in 7 chapters, writing new ones, excited. In an unjust world, I'll speak out. Discovering life's mysteries through passionate amazement daily. Help others to survive what you have survived. Awesome. Wanted to be a detective, now journalist. My mom's dua helped me become strong. SubhanAllah, Allah. Through pain and stress, prayer guides me. Grew up in poverty, now I feed the homeless. That's beautiful. Traveled the world only to find myself in my faith. Ignored my roots, now I plant them. Ooh, beautiful. MashaAllah. You guys are like showing us up, mashallah. Curiosity kills the cat. Mind solved health mysteries. Awesome. Learn to create the art museum. Now I teach there. At the art museum. Now I teach there. Amazing. Knowledge is scattered. I piece it together. I'd actually be interested. Some of these must be adults, because mashallah, you guys are showing amazing self-awareness. This is so cool. Striving for success beyond my own comfort. Bow ties, bean pies, and blessings of salam alaykum. Peace upon you was how I began. Mashallah. Grew up as a child that seemed to now have a place in life. Now a computer engineer that has a heart and place in life. Went through hard paths. Now life makes the path for me. Hardworking but nimble at heart. Okay. I'm sorry. In order to respect your time, we're already probably going to go well over the allotted time, but I'm not going to be able to read them all. What I will do, inshallah, is put them all together and send it out and figure out a format for you guys to vote on your favorites, and also to capture these amazing memoirs that you guys just had. These are some from last year's boot camp, pretty similar to what you guys were saying. Escape the dark, now light for others. I wanted to see what would happen. And this was mine, inspiring Muslim teens in dunya and akhirah. Navigating life's skies, ayah by ayah, right? So similar to what you guys were coming up with. But this sort of exercise, simple exercise in branding, goes a huge way towards like, you have to get outside of your own head and start to see how other people might see you. And you need to figure out, first and foremost, how do you see yourself? How do you want people to see you? And it's something that we don't really think about until this rite of passage comes along. That's why I genuinely love the college essay, because I've seen so many kids who come in sort of not really knowing very much about it, and they really discover a lot about themselves. And that's also why I like to teach this stuff to students when they're still younger. I'm so glad that there are people in the early years of high school here, so you can start to get a sense of this and start thinking about it. All right, I just wanted to take a little break and introduce you to one of my students. So this is Inji. Mashallah, she just graduated from Brown last year. She wrote something really nice about me. It is rare to find a mentor so deeply invested in the success and happiness of their students. Brother Hamza not only spent the time to get to know every one of his students on a personal level, but he's also incredibly knowledgeable about how to use that information to their benefit. During the beginning of my college application process, Brother Hamza set me up with strong foundation, pushing me to reflect on the experiences that shaped me. Mashallah, she's an amazing student, amazing family. I've worked with her siblings as well, and so happy to have her in my world. Okay, another thing to focus on in our essays: vulnerability. You want to focus on things that make you different, things that are a little awkward or uncomfortable. If you think I shouldn't write about that, then that's a pretty good indication that you probably should, or at least you should try it out, right? The best topics are when we take a little bit of a risk and we expose a portion of ourselves. One of my college mentors, Keith Wilkerson, he says this: a good college essay teaches me something I didn't know about a student. A great essay teaches his parents something they didn't know. Right? So you as students need to dig deep and share a part of your soul, a part of your story that maybe even you've never vocalized even to your parents, right? And it's amazing. One of my privileges as sort of a third party is I get to know students in a way different than their parents. And a lot of times they share things with me that they feel embarrassed or shy to share with their parents. And it's an incredible privilege. But this is something. And the other thing of vulnerability is, like, you don't blow the trumpets of triumph. You don't have to have everything figured out. You can be very open about the fact that, like, you're still learning, right? You're still getting there, and you don't want to, put yourself on a pedestal. But so you want to show that vulnerability. Like, tears are not the worst thing to happen. Like, there have been a lot of college essays that have been they don't need to be about sad things, right? They don't need to be about sad things, like that story I told earlier about Safwan and his parents being in the stands, and that almost brought me to tears, right? It's not like sad, no one died or anything like that, but the way you talk about it should tug on the heartstrings. When you have your college essay dialed in, right, you have a pretty good sense of it. They give you goosebumps, right? And a lot of kids just never get there. And my goal is to help you get there, inshallah. Have you get something that you're at least proud of. All right, so values and Islam. So you want to tell concrete, true stories that illustrate your values. So you're not making stuff up, right? But you want to just tell stories of from your life. Use dialogue, right? Dialogue is like catnip for an admissions officer's soul, right? Because they're reading all these long paragraphs with big words and this and that, and then suddenly someone comes in and just tells a really gripping story in simple language, and and they're suddenly just like transported into that, right? But those stories are meant to illustrate your values. So what values are they looking for? What are the qualities they're looking for? They're really looking for something that I call eulogy virtues, right? There are resume virtues, which is like, you've mastered Python and you've you got a 5 on your physics AP and all of this. Those are your sort of resume virtues, and those are there, and those aren't, they're important. They're a part of the process. But the essay is to celebrate your eulogy virtues. Eulogy virtues are things that they talk about at your funeral. When you leave this world, we don't talk about people's, their careers or their career accomplishments. We talk about who they were as people. And that's the same thing you want to focus on here. So these are some of the qualities that colleges are looking for: curiosity, charisma, confidence, grit, ambition, humility, integrity, civic engagement, optimism. Those are all words that colleges themselves, I pulled those directly from what colleges have said they're looking for. And if you think about it, those are actually all of the qualities of our beloved Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? Every single one of these qualities that we see on here, we can see in the seerah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We can see in the lives of the Sahaba. We can see in the great Muslims throughout the country. These are the qualities which they had. So one of my big pushes and emphasis is that, you know, the more we can embrace our own Islamic identity, you know, that's the way we actually become this magnetic Muslim. That's the way we have the president of Mexico calling us up on the phone to try to get us to come to our school, right? Because like when we really have a prophetic mindset and a prophetic character, right? People want to be around you. The Sahaba, their da'wah was kunu mithlana, be like us. That's all they would say. Be like us, and then people wanted to be like them. They came running to them. So these are the things we want to show. Okay, so now with our next thing, the process, right? We want to go from a chaotic, haphazard process to something systematic. We want to have a system in place for writing these essays. Okay, so what are the parts of the system? Examples, zero drafts, and then revision. Right. So the first one, examples. In order to figure out what to write about and so on, first we need to get inspired, right? We need to do that, make the extraordinary out of the ordinary, right? So what are some things you can do even now as a 12th grader, and certainly for all the underclassmen, is starting an ideas journal, right? So in the back of every, I'm a big journaler. In the back of every journal I have, including the one right here, I'm always writing down headlines for future emails or blogs that I'll write or other essays that I write. Like, you want to have an ideas journal, because I do it all the time, because I speak college essay and I see them everywhere. I'm always talking to my daughter or to other, my students, like, just random times. Oh, that's a good college essay. Ooh, that's a good college essay. They're all over the place. They're just hanging out, just chilling on the street, and you just need to find them, and you find them in the strangest times, in the strangest ways, right? You find them when you're in the shower, right? This is Muhammad Sharif, used to say creativity comes from three things: water, sleep, and travel. Bath, bed, bus. That when you're in the shower, you just get ideas. When you're sleeping, you wake up and suddenly you have this amazing idea. I'm sure that's happened to some of you guys. When you're traveling, when you change your routine, right? Then barakah comes, right? For me, out on a walk, I mean, the creativity when you're just staring at a screen, it's trickle, right? When you go out on a walk and you let your mind free and you give yourself some space to breathe, then it comes down, it comes pouring down, and so on. So one question that I always ask myself, I've started doing this, I think for the past 6 months or so. Right before I sleep, I do a journal. It's actually called 111. So I celebrate one win from the day. I write about one really win from the day, one worry or anxiety thing that I'm struggling with, one piece of gratitude, one thing I'm grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for, and then what was the most story-worthy thing that happened today. So what you need to do is you need to start finding the extraordinary in the ordinary. The reality is extraordinary things do not happen to us every day. So by asking yourself this question on a daily basis and keeping track of what you actually write down, you're training yourself to find college essays, and not just college essays, essay ideas, writing ideas, blogging ideas, everything, all around you. So how, what was the most story-worthy thing that happened to you? So I mean, like, I remember I have a bike path right next to my house, and one day I was wearing leather socks, right? Because I wipe over my leather socks in the winter, but my shoes didn't fit, so because the leather socks were too big and so on. So finally I had to take my shoes off, and I was just walking down the bike path in suburban Massachusetts, wearing leather socks. But that leather sock represents so much. That represents my conversion to Islam, like the Sunnah, the story of why even what a rukhsa is, right? What it means to take a halal shortcut or something like that. There's so much there. You could write an amazing essay just about this one Sunnah that you do, right? The miswak, like you could. I mean. SubhanAllah, the sky's the limit. So what is the most story-worthy thing that happened today? You can find great ideas everywhere. You should read college essays. There are a lot of books, like 50 college Harvard essays that worked and so on. I have a download. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to find the link. If there's anyone from my team who has it, with 5 Muslim college essays that work. It's something that exists. It might be possible to get it on the website, but I can include it in the follow-up email. But I want to read just one essay here. This is that Hogwarts essay, and again, you'll get access to that if you didn't see it already. This is an essay, The Expulsion to Ivy League, about a student who I taught, and in middle school, actually, he was struggling so much academically and in other ways that he actually got kicked out of the Islamic school. He was not invited back, and that lit a fire under him. And he went to public school and totally transformed his life, and then came back to us as a junior and wrote this amazing essay talking about what he learned from that experience. And alhamdulillah, he got into Dartmouth, and he's there at Dartmouth now. This is an essay. This is actually a supplement. This is not a main college essay. I don't know if this was for Brown or someone else. Brown had a supplement like this earlier, but if you had the opportunity to create your own college course, what enduring question or contemporary problem would you address and why? All right, so this is a student named Dina. She ended up going to MIT. Alhamdulillah, she just got her master's from MIT, and she just started, like yesterday or 2 days ago, a job with Microsoft. But this was her supplement. So I am interested in math and history and technology and diplomacy and a myriad of nerdy things, any of which I could write volumes and lecture for years about. But one of my greatest interests is pizza. It is everything I love and all I've ever wanted to be. After thinking for weeks about this question, I finally figured it out. If given a room full of bright young students, I'd teach them about pizza. The ingredients required to make a pizza are only acquirable because of a complex system of international trade that took centuries to develop and that continues to evolve with technology. Its unique shape and shareability make it an example in every math class from fractions to cylinders. Pizza never makes people fight, except maybe for the last slice, because if 2 parties want different toppings, they can simply get a half and half. Pizza is math and history and technology and diplomacy and a myriad of nerdy things, any of which I could consume boxes of. In a world where you must choose to be cheese or veggie, pizza dares to be both. It dares to be proudly indecisive and deliciously different. It invites pineapples and Parmesan to the same table, despite their differences. It refuses to have only one topping because it is complex, and it is beautiful despite being confused. It is short-lived but makes an impact on all it encounters. It is the epitome of human ingenuity and collaboration. My students and I would look at the world around us and answer the question of how can we work together, collect and combine the best and most delicious parts of ourselves to make something as wonderful and harmonious as pizza. I tell them that unfortunately we live in a world where cheese and tomatoes are not proportionately represented. Our pizza has grown dry because cheese was born on top of tomatoes and has largely used its recognition to keep it that way, forgetting that mozzarella means nothing without marinara. We'd think critically about how to find a tasty balance, both within ourselves and in our communities. We'd make America delicious again. At the end of the term, we would have a pizza party, but that part would just be for fun. Anyway, I always love that essay. Hope you guys enjoyed it as well. You just put in the chat any thoughts. Give Dina a little bit of love. Nice. Okay, let me go back to the slides. By the way, I will announce this later, but one of the features of the bootcamp that we're doing is for the students who choose to be in this tier of the class, we're going to be connecting them with a mentor like Dina, potentially Dina herself, who has just gone through this process and is going to work one-on-one with the students on developing their own essays. And so I was just talking to Dina yesterday. If she can swing it with Microsoft, she can potentially take on a few students of her own. And I've been working really hard behind the scenes, acquiring like an all-star roster of alumni admissions mentors, with the hope that people will want that sort of help from someone who has just gone through this process, has gotten into a great school of their own, has learned so much by doing it, who's going to go to bat for you to try to help you achieve your college dreams. All right, next, the zero draft. This is one of my most sort of secret weapons, I guess, when it comes to writing. So the zero draft is this concept that my biggest issue when I was at Harvard, like I said, writing was always my superpower, but it was the thing I hated the most because it took so much effort. So if I had an essay that was 10 pages or fewer, right, then I would wait until about midnight, the night before it was due, in order to actually complete it. And full disclosure, I haven't fully finished this. I finished these slides about 3 minutes before this started. The reason I had to pray right when the thing started was because I still have this issue with procrastination, and that's just the reality for some students. They need deadline pressure in order to perform, but ultimately, as long as you do perform, it's going to be okay, right? And I know that's hard for parents to hear, and that's one of the reasons why we want to do the boot camp, to provide that deadline pressure before the actual deadline, so you actually get things done. Okay, so the zero draft. What I would do a few years ago, I made this crazy challenge to myself to write 30 college essays in 30 days. This is when I was still working full time, in the school job where I had set hours, and so writing 30 essays in 30 days, 30 college essays in 30 days was sort of a crazy thing to try to do. So what I would do is I would go to Fajr. I would try my best to pray Fajr in the masjid, come back home, and I had about 45 minutes to work with. So I would take my phone, I would put it in airplane mode so I wouldn't get distracted. I'd set a timer for 41 minutes, and then I would just open up the notebook and just start writing. Right? And, and what that did was my whole issue before in writing was I was trying to write the final draft in the first sitting. And so I'd write a sentence, and then I'd read the sentence, and I'd start tinkering with the sentence, and then I'd fix it, and finally I'd move on to the next sentence, and so on. And it was effective. Like, alhamdulillah, I got the results, but it was incredibly painful. And it doesn't lead to very free-flowing writing. What I did, this system that I did, by writing by hand, not allowing myself to, cross things out, to start over, etc., it forced me to, be able to think divergently, to just get my ideas out, right, without any sort of judgment and so on. And the quality of the writing and the liveliness of the writing just shot way up. And the speed with which I was able to do things. I was writing a college essay in about 40 minutes, right? And then I would, my wife used to type it up for me, alhamdulillah. Now there are some AI tools that can do that for you, but she would type it, and then I would spend probably an hour to an hour and a half editing it, because the revision takes longer than the writing. But then essentially within about 2 hours, I was writing a college essay a day in 2 hours a day, right, for 30 days. And so that helped me learn a lot about writing a college essay. This is something that does exist. I think Ruhina put it in the chat earlier. Maybe she could do it again. You can get access to it on our website, the 30 college essays that I wrote. This is a little bit more. The reason this worked was for procrastinators, and I'd say for almost anyone, right? There's Parkinson's law. The work expands to fill the time available for its completion, right? So if you give yourself, 5 hours to do a task, it's going to take you 5 hours to do the task, right? If you give yourself 2 hours to do the same task, you're going to get the same task done in 2 hours. You're just going to be much more productive during that time, right? And so to some extent, for we procrastinators, sorry, for us procrastinators, get my grammar right, we need to put, you know, deadlines in place. And obviously there's an actual college deadline of November 1st, but it's important to put, you know, an artificial deadline that actually has teeth, that has some sort of requirement, and that will get you to do your best work, right? The best thing, you know, to do is to commit to do something. Like, I'm going to host a webinar, I'm going to get 500 people here, and then I better actually like get it all prepared. All the stuff's in my head, but I want to get the slides ready and all of that, right? But that forces you into intense focus, and it actually lets you push your goals forward. So one of the big ideas, because the zero draft is relatively fast, it only takes maybe 45 minutes to get the zero draft done. One of the biggest mistakes I see people is they fixate on one college essay idea. They say, I already know what I'm writing about. I don't need this class. I don't need any help. I know what I'm writing about. There's a chance that that's the perfect essay, and they already are all done. Alhamdulillah, that's great. It has happened. I have had students who their very first essay they ever produced was amazing, but it's unusual, right? And a lot of times, like, one of the hardest things as a writer is to quote unquote kill your darlings, right? That's what they call it, like where you have to actually delete something that you put blood, sweat, and tears into, right? And one of the best things to do is just to write more than one college essay, right? I say 5, but I've downgraded to 3. Write at least 3 college essays before you decide which one you really want to use. Get some expert advice on those 3 different ideas that you've come up with, and then once you really have a topic, then you can put the hard work into the revising side of things. And the key with, you know, all these things, all these college essays that I wrote that you can read, you know, we'll talk about ChatGPT and how ChatGPT and AI can actually help you in this whole process, but it certainly can't help you with the topics. It can't help you with the stories. It can't help you with the ideas side of things. There's no way they could have done that. All right, change your mindset, change your life. Right, this is a huge thing that I try to teach people about. Okay, it's not that you have to write a college essay; you get to write a college essay. Right, there are people around the world who are dying to go to university over here. There are people who would sell a kidney to have the opportunities that it just fell into your lap by virtue of where you happen to be born. You don't have to write a college essay; you get to. It's a privilege, right? And when you look at it from that perspective, everything changes. And think about any hardship, any difficulty where it happening, it's not happening to us, it's happening for us, right? This is happening for us. There's a reason that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put this rite of passage in front of us. This is going to help us get in touch with who we are as Muslims, who we are as people, what we want to do with the world. It's going to help us mature a lot in a very short period of time, right? And so one of the things that I have the students do is start with something that I call the Alhamdulillah avalanche. So let's just take one breath. We don't need to do this in TweetStorm file, but can people who are able to, willing to, can you just write Alhamdulillah, comma, and then something that you're grateful for? I just love to hear something that people are grateful for. I'm going to start. Alhamdulillah, I'm grateful that there are still 168 people here who have been here for an hour and a half listening to this, and I'm hopeful that you're getting some benefit from it. So Alhamdulillah. So can you write Alhamdulillah, comma, something that you're grateful for in the chat so we can see it? Alhamdulillah, everything, mashallah. Grateful for my bedroom. I like to write food, family, mashallah, children, all the support Allah is giving, being alive, this beneficial webinar, mashallah, family. Sorry, I can't read everything. Coming so fast. Being healthy again, mashallah. For having 2 parents, that's beautiful. A roof on my head, being surrounded by people like you. You're gonna make me cry, mashallah. Grateful for being Muslim, the opportunities Allah has given. Pizza. Dina would be proud. Muslim College of mashallah. These are so beautiful. Having a roof over my head, village to visit extended family in Egypt. Yeah, this is awesome. One of the best things we can do when we're having a tough day is to do this thing. I call it the Alhamdulillah avalanche. You know, whenever I'm feeling a little off, First, I do something called an emotional dump, where I just write out my feelings. Whatever's on my mind, whatever I'm worried about, I just write it out, never intending to read it again. I'm just trying to get the bad out. And then you follow it up with an alhamdulillah avalanche, which is like at least 5 times you write alhamdulillah and then something that you're grateful for. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that in shakartum la azidannakum. If you give thanks, then we will increase you in that. And when we give this thanks to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He will inshallah increase us. So Jazak-Allah khair for that. All right, so then revision. We're going from that zero draft to the hero draft, right? So one concept here is the staircase test. So imagine that the college person printed your things out. They didn't have names on them, and and they were walking up the stairs and they tripped and all the papers flew up, right? They should be able to pick that paper up and with no name on it, know exactly whose essay it was, because it couldn't have been written by anyone except for you, right? So if your essay can't pass the staircase test, right? Can't pass, that it could have been written by someone else, you know that you're not there yet, right? That's one of the key features. Another thing for editing, read it out loud. Okay, this is a secret that I think writers, people who write a lot know. Like when we're writing, the purpose of writing is to communicate, and we typically communicate by speaking. And so if it doesn't sound good when you read it out loud, it's not going to sound good in the head of the admissions officer. So one of the best things you can do is to read your work out loud. Does it scare you to share with others? Okay, if the answer is no, then you probably aren't being vulnerable enough. It should be a little bit scary. You should be, not that you shouldn't share it, with others. You're sharing it with strangers and so on, but it probably means you haven't taken a risk if you're wanting everyone to read it. Eliminate any vague references to life-changing events or any of those trumpets of triumph or anything like that. And then also be careful with how many people you ask for advice. As I say here, too many cooks spoil the biryani. A little mixed metaphor there. It's good to get some advice from people who know you really well and who know college essays and who know what colleges are looking for. But if you go to 5 different people, they're all going to give you a different opinion, and it gets confusing. And eventually, if you don't have confidence in yourself, you end up writing sort of an essay by committee that doesn't have any real ruh and soul. That's why having an expert in your corner who knows what they're doing is very helpful. How can you actually use ChatGPT? If you guys are taking screenshots, you might benefit from this. So these are some prompts that you can use with ChatGPT and ideas that you can build your own prompts. Prompting is one of the most critical things that you need to learn how to do, right? We are living in the AI era, and people who learn how to use these tools are going to be miles ahead of others. And I would say more than half the students, I would say more like 75% of the students I talk to either don't use AI, they think they shouldn't, they think it's cheating, etc. But the reality is businesses are, and there are ways to use this in an ethical way, in a halal way, and these are the types of questions you want to ask. Read over this college essay and let me know if there are any holes in the story. Are there any blind spots I might not be seeing? Okay, it's getting a third-party perspective for free from the internet, essentially the amassed knowledge of all of humanity. If I could only keep 20% of this essay, what would it be and why? Okay, that helps you zero in on the key points. Of course, I should say it is artificial intelligence. You don't need to agree with it. You can easily disagree with it. You don't need to take it as the gospel truth, but these questions do tend to help you zero in on what are your nuggets of gold and what can you maybe get rid of. Similarly, you'd say, if I had to cut 20% of this, what would it be and why, right? That's a similar question that's also helpful. And when you're trying to get down to word count, those things can be helpful. After reading this essay, what do you think my top 3 values are and why? That will give you a pretty good sense of whether you've gotten your values across. What kind of a person you are. If they're saying things that are totally disconnected, you're like, oops, I think I messed up. Imagine you are an overworked admissions officer who has to read 50 college essays a day. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much does this one stand out and why? Okay. I guarantee you, if you throw essays in like this, I mean, if I have more time, I could do it with like that pizza essay, and see what it says. It would be interesting. And there are other AI tools. Hemingway is a really great one for writers. I don't have time to show it off. Claude is another one. Hemingway helps you write like Hemingway, write really simple sentences. It like looks at your writing and it tells you how complex your sentence is, because the idea is that good writing is simple writing. So all very helpful things. This is Dina. We already met her on the pizza essay. This is one of the things she wrote when she graduated. She was a student from Al-Noor. When she graduated, she actually wrote me a recommendation letter, which I still have hanging in my office at school. But she said, when I first met Brother Hamza, I was in 8th grade. He treated me like I wasn't a child, even though I was, and technically still am. He received all my ridiculousness with appreciation and understanding. He showed me that someone like me could live an interesting, fulfilled life. Up until becoming his student, I felt like an outlier for whom there was no place in the normal world. But in fact, there was a place for people like me, his classroom. And mashallah. I was fortunate to go to her wedding a couple of months ago, and that's one of the amazing things about being in education and so on. All right, I know we're quite a ways in, and we need to bring this to a conclusion, so I'll try to go quickly here. But the last major part of the three-legged stool is structure. Right, we want to go from a rambling essay to a focused one. Right, that involves the craft, the writing, the hook, the kicker, and the narrative versus montage. All right, this is a great little thing. Again, another good oops, sorry, I'll go back. Screenshotable thing. This is a famous thing from this guy, Gary Provost, who wrote 100 Ways to Improve Your Writing. This sentence has 5 words. Here are 5 more words. 5-word sentences are fine, but several together become monotonous. Listen to what is happening. The writing is getting boring. The sound of it drones. It's like a stuck record. The ear demands some variety. Now listen. I vary the sentence length and I create music. Music. The writing sings. It has a pleasant rhythm, a lilt, a harmony. I use short sentences, and I use sentences of medium length. And sometimes, when I am certain the reader is rested, I will engage him with a sentence of considerable length, a sentence that burns with energy and builds with all the impetus of a crescendo, the roll of the drums, the crash of the cymbals, sounds that say, listen to this, it is important. So write with a combination of short, medium, and long sentences. Create a sound that pleases the reader's ears. Don't just write words, write music. Okay. Now, if you wrote that as your college essay, I think you'd have some pretty good results, but obviously he's a pretty pro writer himself. But there's so much truth to this. I mean, I'm an English teacher first and foremost. I love teaching writing. You know, this is just great stuff. All right. Choose your words. So focus on verbs and nouns, limit adjectives, eliminate adverbs. I don't want to take everyone back to school. I know it's the middle of the summer, but this is another great writing quote. Prefer the familiar word to the far-fetched. Prefer the concrete word to the abstract. Prefer the single word to the circumlocution. Prefer the short word to the long. Prefer the Saxon word to the Romance. So really interesting if you're into language like I am. You know, about 20% of English words come from like Anglo-Saxon, and those are the short words, things like ask versus inquire, break versus damage, grow versus cultivate. And what they're saying here is that the best writing actually uses the simple words. It's counterintuitive. It's not what you think. You've been taught that you have to write these big, long SAT vocab words, right? The reality is on the college essay and in writing in general, you want your writing to be crystal clear. You don't want to make the writer do any work. You want to let the stories do the work and showcase the values. Avoid overwriting. No, my unbridled affect for animals emerged back when I was still basking in the innocence of my youth. I hear sentences like this all the time. People think they've written this great sentence. What they're trying to say, I got my first pet when I was 10. It was a tadpole. Okay, that's so much better. The overworked admissions officer doesn't want to hear about you basking in the innocence of your youth, right? The pungent scent of moisture-laden clods of earth entered my unwavering nostrils. Versus, I smelled mud. I don't know if you can hear it, but that second one is just so much so much better crafted and so on. The hook and the kicker. This is, so I always say the very beginning of the essay and the very end of the essay, that's the boardwalk and the park place of the college essay. And the only job of the hook, the only job of the first sentence is to get you to read the second sentence. The only job of the second sentence is to get you to read the third sentence. This is a truth I learned in copywriting, like writing, you know, when you're trying to sell things, but it's the exact same thing for the college essay. Okay, so compare these two openers, these as hooks. Living on a farm with relatives afforded me the chance to mature as a person and to learn the importance of personal responsibility. Okay. Living in Ipswich Gardens with my stepdad, Ali, I learned the hard way about needing to pull my own weight. If you don't water the lettuce in June, there's literally no salad at dinner in August. Okay. So the first one, forgettable, bland, boring, waste of like that critical real estate. The second one, interesting, unusual, thought-provoking, open loops. You know, there's so much good stuff in there. Here are some great openers from some previous essays. Let me tell you about the night I climbed the minaret at ISBCC and saw for the first time the lights of my own apartment in Roxbury. Notice that opening. Let me tell you. They're about to tell us a story. We are storytelling creatures. When they've been like reading all these essays about basking in the innocence of youth, and suddenly someone's like, let me tell you a story. They're like, yes, tell me a story. Make it a good one. Our cat Rehan has always been affectionate with everyone in the family but me. But maybe it's because we're more alike than we think. Okay? You can't help but be curious after that, right? You want to learn more. This is one from one of my students from a year or two ago. Muslims aren't supposed to be violent, but I am. Right? He went on to talk about how he was a boxer and so on, but definitely like going right after that Islamophobic trope, stereotype, and so on, and going at it head on in a way that that really worked. English essays and personal statements are not the same thing. College Essay Guy is a fantastic resource. You know, I know not everyone's going to work with me. If you want to find a person to you know, work with who has amazing stuff online for free, College Essay Guy is great. I've learned so much of what I know about this from him, from Ethan Sawyer, and you know, I have a whole library of college essay books, and he's definitely one of the best. But so he put together this slide. So English class essays, the purpose, to make an argument and support it with evidence. The thesis is often explicit. It appears in the first paragraph. The tone is analytical. You're often like analyzing a specific text. You're not allowed to use I, right? We always tell students, poke out your eyes, right? There's no vulnerability, right? They're not supposed to be showing that. And essentially the goal is to help you understand how a student thinks. What about the personal statement? What's the college essay supposed to do? Demonstrate the values, skills, and qualities and interests that you'll bring with you to a college campus. What makes you you, and why should we care about that? What are you going to do for us? Thesis is often implied or not stated at all. If one does appear, it's often at the very end or near the end, right? So it's not, you know, the first sentence in the first paragraph, last sentence, the first paragraph. Tone, they're more casual, personal. Like you are the text, like you're not, it's not the super formal thing. You don't have, sorry, I statements. There's never really been a good college essay that isn't written in the first person. I mean, I say that and probably someone can find something that's different than that, but pretty much they're all I statements. They do show vulnerability, and they help you not only understand how a student thinks, but how they feel, work, play, and live. Okay. Really, really great advice. So it's not an English essay. A lot of people are very good at writing English essays. Most people don't have practice writing college essays. How to structure your essay, right? So the two questions, and this is another College Essay Guy technique. The two questions you have to ask yourself when figuring out how do you want to structure it is, have you experienced significant challenges in your life? For some people, yes, 100%. And for some people, really no. When they look at their life, you know, when I was applying to college, alhamdulillah, I mean, my parents got divorced when I was 4, but it was a very amicable divorce. There wasn't any major issue that I'd struggle with. Whereas other people, they were born in a refugee camp, or they, you know, they had all sorts of hardships. You know, victims of abuse, or they had a sickness, or they had all sorts of challenges. And I know there are people in this audience who have had those sorts of things, but you don't have to. You don't have to have a sob story or something like that to tell. And then, do you have a good sense of what you want to do in the future? Right? For some people, they do. They have a really a clear sense of what they're trying to do. But other people, they're still figuring it out, and that's also okay, right? So you have to figure out which quadrant you are. Okay, so you can actually, if you're still with us, you could maybe type in the chat which one you think you are. I'd be interested. So the student has faced significant challenges and knows what you want to study. I'll use you. So you have faced significant challenges and you know what you want to study. If that's you, put A in the chat. You have not faced significant challenges and you do not know what you want to study. Okay, so the opposite. You haven't faced challenges and you don't know what to study. Oh, sorry, that says does know. My bad. Strike that. You have not faced significant challenges, but you do know what you want to study. Okay. C, you have faced significant challenges, but you don't know what you want to study. Okay. And D, you have not faced significant challenges and you do not know what you want to study. So that's the opposite of A. My bad earlier. Okay, so let's see in the chat where we are. See a lot of D's, B's, D, B. Some people are speculating on their kids and so on. All right. So based on how you answered that question, now this is the sort of structure idea. So if you are type A or C, so those are the ones who have faced challenges, then most likely a structure that might work for you is the narrative, which if you're an English junkie, that's sort of like the hero's journey, right? So think about Harry Potter, from his story, or Luke Skywalker, right? The typical hero's journey, flawed protagonist, this sort of thing. They often are chronological. They often start in the beginning and then move through to the end there, and so on. They have some level of cause and effect, right? Whereas if you're type B or D, right, where you didn't really face challenges, whether you do know what you want to do or you don't know what you want to do, right, then the essay type that a lot of people will use is something called a montage structure, which is, rather than picking a single sort of story to bring you through the whole essay, you're picking little snippets, little vignettes, they say, scenes from your life. But you figure out some way to stitch them together. One person wrote an essay about laptop stickers, right? So they have a bunch of different stickers on their laptop, and they sort of tell their whole story based on the stickers that they have on their laptop, and so you figure out some sort of central lens, central metaphor to use, often using some sort of concrete object like the leather socks that I was talking about earlier, to represent something bigger about your values and things like that. Okay, so narrative structure, right? This is English teacher stuff, but so status quo, inciting incident, challenges. The actual example: separated from mom at 3, absent an alcoholic father, terrible babysitters, no structure. Then I assume the role of the parent. Brother throws chair at teacher. I assume the role of parent even more. And now I'm grateful for my experiences. I became independent, resourceful. So you can see that person clearly went through challenges, so that structure makes a lot of sense. And this is one last thing. Again, if you're really, really struggling the night before the essay, and you want to just, or you just want to get this process done with, and you don't really want to write the great essay, this is an essay that it's a little bit overused because people have seen it, but it does work, which is the challenges, what I did about it, and then what I learned, right? So my life was forever changed when ... To make matters worse, something even worse happened. So I started doing this, I also did this, and then that all sort of turned into a strength. But by virtue of the fact that this is sort of a paint by numbers, you can tell a really good story in this format, but it is something that they would have seen before. So I don't necessarily recommend that, but for people who really want to get something done and so on, this is something that can work, and they can still be really good. Alhamdulillah. Okay, just as we finish up this section, before I tell you a little bit more about the class, right? People think success in life, in the college essay process, in the college admissions process, is this straight line. All these people who come on, they talk about going to Ivy League schools and this and that. The reality is success looks a lot more like that, right? So don't be too hard on yourself if you haven't figured this all out. If you're sitting here, great, Brother Hamza, but what about me? Like, I'm not like that. You are like, we're all like you. We are all exactly in the same spot, right? And it's all this stuff is going on, right? And eventually, inshallah, you will get there with, because you need to have this concept. Your I can is more important than your IQ, right? And your iman is the source of your I can. Right? Your I can is more important than your IQ. That's what colleges are looking for. They're looking for doers, not thinkers, not talkers, people who have actually done things, right? And you can do things and you can do this essay, right? But the source of that confidence that you have is not some reliance on yourself, the way, society tells us. It's that we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in control and we're serving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and therefore we have confidence that He is going to help us and He's going to make whatever is best to happen for us. Okay, so with that long preamble, I quickly want to introduce the College Essay Bootcamp. I hope that I have everyone's permission to do that. If you have gotten all that you needed from this, then you're welcome to sign off and so on. But I would like to talk about this that we put a lot of effort into. 5 years in 5 minutes. That's another one of our 5 things. I'm going to make those 5 years leading up to college that they have 5 minutes in front of the admissions officer count. And so we decided this College Essay Bootcamp. So what are you going to get? You're going to understand how college admissions officers think and why they are looking for Muslim candidates just like you. Okay? You're going to learn how to tell your unique story in a way that transforms your application readers from gatekeepers to advocates. You'll see some of these from the earlier things. You'll produce a complete college application that pops off the page, inshallah. You will be ready to submit your early application weeks ahead of the deadline. And you'll be able to focus on your senior year while your peers are scrambling to meet last-minute deadlines. Okay, so these are all the goals. You're going to actually get your full college application to your top choice school done in the summer before you go back to school. Or I know some of you are from Texas and other places, they go back to school really early, but at least very, very early in the school year, way before the November 1st deadline. And you're going to see all your friends struggling with it, and you're going to be on easy street, feeling really confident about yourself, alhamdulillah. Who's this class for? So mainly it's for rising seniors. One of the questions that I'm sure I'll get asked is, if I'm not a senior, should I take this class? And the answer is, it is definitely designed for seniors. Seniors are the ones going through this process. That said, every time I've offered an essay class, there have been a handful of juniors, especially who have taken the class, and they've told me they got a lot of benefit from it, and it prepared them well. Obviously, college is not the only thing you have to write personal statements for. You're often applying for scholarships and other things. And so learning how to do this type of writing is very valuable. But definitely, the focus of this is on the rising seniors. But so people who want to completely, a fully polished college essay this summer, students who know that they need the accountability of deadlines to get their best work done, right? If you're, a total self-starter, you've read all the college essay books yourself, you can get everything done, then by all means, do it, go the DIY path. But if you want that added accountability of having like a time frame, right? The reason we do this as a boot camp, it's as I'll say, it's a 2-week boot camp, is because it's that whole Parkinson's law thing, right? We don't want to let this process stretch out over 6 months, which is what most people let happen, right? Where the college essay is just this dark storm cloud hanging over them for 6 months, right? We want them to actually get it done quickly. This is for families that want to be sure that they're giving their children the best possible chance to succeed. So I know there are students here, I know there are parents here. This is, for families, especially if you didn't go through this process yourself, right? You don't know as much, about what colleges are looking for, and you want to make sure that you're giving your kids, all the tools that they need to succeed, and so on. When does this happen? So the boot camp is, inshallah, planned for the first 2 weeks of August, starting August 4th, right? But for the people doing the premium level, who are going to be matched with the mentors, that process is going to start happening in late July. So it's going to happen, for those 2 weeks, starting August 4th. And like I said, it is a fast time period where we're really trying to get a lot done in a quick period of time. How does it work? So this is going to be, there are going to be parts that are working with me. So one thing is going to be a brainstorming intensive. It's going to be a half-day workshop. Some of the topics we covered today would be there, like the 7-word memoir and stuff like that, but a whole bunch of other stuff. I've been doing this for a long time, to help you get a ton of topic ideas, to get a ton of topic ideas just for your main essays, for supplements, for everything, so that you can, you'll have the fodder to do the rest of the class, right? And so on. And you're also, during that 1-day workshop, you're actually going to write your first zero draft, right? We're going to do some timed writing live, where you're actually getting that 45-minute draft done. And I've done this a number of times with people, and oftentimes the drafts which they write by hand after doing an intensive brainstorming session are some of the best writing that I've seen. And it's in really great shape to then be, put into the main college essay. Then they're going to be essay strategy sessions. Okay, so these are going to be group coaching calls on some of these different points that we were talking on here, this 5 before college framework, to go into more depth. You got a taste of it today. I probably went into more depth than I needed to, but alhamdulillah, people still seemed interested and so on. So we'll go into depth about that. Those are the main things that I'm going to be doing. Then the other thing, which is available for the people who do the premium tier of this, is that they will be matched with a one-on-one Muslim mentor, most likely a current college student at a top university, recent graduate. There are a few adult mentors as well in the mix. Again, until I see how many people join, I don't know exactly what it's going to look like. We are going to have a second webinar where you're going to meet some of these mentors, inshallah, 2 weeks from today, just to see. I mean, they're much more amazing than me, and that's the real goal of this. But you're going to match with them, and you're going to get to meet with them for 1 hour every other day. So over the course of the 2 weeks, you'll meet with them for 7 hours to actually get like custom help with your essays specifically, so that you're not doing it all on your own. You're not just getting the guidance like you are in a webinar like this and then figuring it on your own. You're getting the guidance, you're getting the suggestions, you're getting the exercise, you're sort of being told what to do, how to do it, but then you're also getting the individualized attention that you need from people who have been there before. What's the outcome? Inshallah, the outcome is a complete polished application that includes your activity section, your personal statement, your supplements for your dream school that you're applying early to. Okay, I want to stress this is not a place where, unless you're absolutely Superman, you're going to get 20 college applications done, right? That's not realistic to do in 2 weeks, especially as you're first getting started. So people who are applying to 20 schools at the regular deadline, and they're applying to all 7 Ivies and this and that, right? We have a program for that. In fact, on the checkout page, you'll see a chance to explore that program in more depth, where you get more one-on-one attention from me directly for the people who are really aiming high with college and so on, who really want that extra level of support. That's something that will be rolled out later. So the focus of this is to get your application done for your top choice school. Like I said, most safeties don't have supplements, so you can pretty much any school that you're applying early to, you should be able to get that stuff done. But most likely, many of you will be targeting one school in particular. And that's the goal, is to help you have one. What is our guarantee? Right, so if you are enrolled in the premium level and you attend all the group sessions that I'm teaching and the one-on-one mentorship sessions with your mentors, you will have a complete application to your dream school at the end of those 2 weeks, or we'll keep working with you for free. Right? So if you do all of that, right, and you actually put the work in and do the different assignments and meet your deadlines and so on, then you're going to have a draft that you're completely comfortable with and happy with, or else you get to keep working with us for free. I'm confident that we'll get you there, and I don't want to sell something that we don't follow through with. But there's more. Okay, sorry. I've seen some webinars and they do a good job with that. There's more. Bonus. So there's open office hours. One thing about this that I do want to be clear, I am also running the Find Your Qibla program right now, which is a one-on-one coaching program. My plate is quite full. So my role in this college essay workshop is to do more of the group coaching side of things, right? Unless people join that Ivy cohort on the back end, I will be available, but mainly available through these office hours. So there will be office hours throughout the 2 weeks, both with myself and with some of the mentors, where you can come, whether you're in the premium or the other version, and you can share your questions and so on. Obviously, 1 hour, you can't you can't edit a whole essay, but you can get some ideas workshopped and get some direct feedback like that. You're also students who join are also added to a private community. So within most likely WhatsApp, that seems to be the easiest one, but it'll be something where you have access to myself and to the admissions mentors who are all experts in this space, to actually bounce ideas off in an async fashion as you get with things. And I really do want to build a community. You guys are all amazing. I want you to get to know each other. And then there's the mini course, the 5 Muslim college essays that worked. That's a pre-recorded class where I break down 5 great Muslim college essays. So there's a limited bonus for people who are on the webinar right now and have stuck it out till the end. May Allah reward you. I know this is a long one. Anyone who purchases during today's webinar gets a free 15-minute strategy session with me. Like I said, my time is really, really stretched thin, so that's why I wish I could do this for everyone. But this is a special bonus for people who actually buy during this webinar. So what's the investment? That's, I'm sure, what you guys have been wondering about, and so on. So there's 2 levels of this class, as I've sort of alluded to before. There's the essential and there's the premium. So the essential essentially has the brainstorming stuff. It has the group classes. It has the office hours. It has that asynchronous community and so on. And so essentially it's a do it together type model. Like, you're having a lot of expert guidance, from myself and access to the mentors in the office hours and so on. But you're really, for your own essay, you're sort of having to figure things out on your own with your own resources and so on. And then there's the premium, right? So the premium is all of those features, plus the main thing is the 7 one-hour mentorship periods. And these are really amazing people. People have gone to Harvard or MIT or gone to other great schools. Alhamdulillah, by virtue of what I do, amazing people come out of the woodworks, and I store their name, and then when something like this comes up, I go out and reach out to them. And again, depending on how many people sign up, I will try to get that for you. And you, of course, get the 5 before college guarantee. So those are the prices. But wait, there is a discount. The early bird catches the worm. I believe in starting early, right? So there's 5 before college is all about starting early. You guys came to this webinar in early July. I want you to be rewarded for that. And so anyone who enrolls within the next week, by next Wednesday, you get, there's a $200 off of premium. And then there is a $100 off of the essential one, and the coupon codes are right there. All of this will be included in the follow-up email. So I'm going to post this. That is the page. To be honest, my team was building this page up until the webinar began. So I actually haven't seen this whole page myself, so I just want to look through it and so on. So I believe what you do is you click Join Now, right? And then you get either Essential or the Bootcamp, or the Premium. So with the Premium, I assume you go here. And last thought before we conclude and get to Q&A, if people are still willing to hang out, stop chasing the shadow of college admissions. One thing you'll notice about our guarantee is I do not guarantee that even if you write the best college essay that's ever been written, that's going to actually get you into your top choice school. Because ultimately that is in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, especially with these top schools. Admissions decisions are difficult to sometimes parse. I don't always understand why someone got in and someone else didn't get in. But ultimately, if you do this task with ihsan and you put your best foot out there, you will inshallah get into some fantastic colleges. You will get into some great colleges. And most importantly, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will open up the doors that are meant for you. Like your rizq is already written for you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows where you're going to go to college. He chose for that to happen. And you have to some extent come to accept that. So as much as I help people get into Ivies and so on, I want to avoid this concept of like just chasing after those things. So don't, the reason I didn't want to start a college company in the first place was because it brings out the worst in people a lot of times, right? So you have to remember the hadith, ajib li amr al-mu'min. Whatever good happens, we give shukr. We get into our top choice school, alhamdulillah. We don't, then we have sabr, right? And inshallah, nothing you can do will set you up better for that than working on this college essay, having an outstanding application. And you've seen all the testimonials and things of all the students that have come through. But either way, if you ultimately turn towards the light of Islam and you do this, and you then you have the most important thing, and then the dunya will come chasing after you, just like the shadow chases after you on the playground when you walk away from the sun. This will happen. You're not going to be asked about your GPA or where you went to college on the Day of Judgment. So I am going to do my absolute best with my team to get you into the college of your dreams. But what's so much more important to me is to help you pave the path to Jannah. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us khair and barakah in this journey together. And Jazak-Allah khair. Thank you so much for everyone for staying all this time. I want to answer as many questions as I can. But I also do need to pray. I was actually praying Asr before. I mentioned Maghrib. So it's getting a little late for me. So I know it's already very late. So I understand that people might need to leave, but I will be back as soon as I can to answer all of those questions that I can. And hopefully Ruhina and the other people have been able to answer some of them, but I will be right back. I really apologize about that. But again, what can you do? Salah always comes first. So I will be back as soon as I can, inshallah. Jazakallah khair.